Institutional, aka Jansan, aka consumer, aka money. Different markets. Cruise line sanitary systems, liquid and dry. Example, cruise ships. Treat each cabin. Some of them have 1,200 cabins. Give an example of an application. They'll use about 1 liter of liquid product to keep their drain lines clear. Odors, they use 1 liter per cabin per month. One cruise ship. That's 1,200 liters of product once a month. That's just for the cabins. That doesn't go for the galley, the kitchen, or the holding tank, the septic. Hotel sanitary systems, same deal. It's on land. You get all the, here. Grease traps, septic tanks, shipboard holding tanks, drains, beverage towers. You guys know what a beverage tower is? It's that little tray underneath that fountain drink thing. What application is that? Well, all that sugar and fructose goes down that. It just builds up and bacteria cling onto it. You clog it up, it overflows, and starts to stink. Keep it clean. Start with the dry products. EBR D30. What does EBR stand for? Enzyme Bacterial Research. We just
We should buy it in.
no, they
just came up with that.
at same plant. They just changed the name for institutional products. D30. The D stands for dry. 30 is just a formulation name. This is a dry powdered product. Minimum spec of 2 billion per gram. 2 years. This produces those 4 basic enzymes for fats, grease, cellulose, proteins, starches. This product is bugs only, no nutrients, no surfactant added. Used for grease traps and septic systems.
Quick question, Raymond. Would you
Yeah.
say the institutional products are basically like little brothers or little sisters to all the industrial
brothers.
products because
That's
they're just
right.
concentration?
Correct.
Now, why, you mentioned about it doesn't have any surfactants. Why is the surfactants important?
Good question. Next product. EBR D30F is EBR D30, but is formulated. Formulated meaning has surfactant, has nutrients. Well, which one's better? All right. Why do we have the same product, but one with surfactant and one without? Remember those municipal codes that say you can't use surfactants and this, that, and the other? Well, okay, don't. Use D30. Bugs will work. If you can use a surfactant, it is a benefit because surfactants serve as a wetting agent. It makes water wetter. Well, it emulsifies oil and grease. You got a chunk of grease. The bacteria have to chew on it, emulsify it, and then take care of it. If you can emulsify it and spread it out, more bacteria can degrade it. Increase surface area. It's got nutrients in it too. Septic tanks, drain lines, stuff like that. I sell more EBR D30F than I do D30. People want mold for their money.
And usage amounts.
Do what?
And dosages.
Dosage rate, good question. Typically, we'll use 1/8 of a pound maintenance per day. Why do we dose per day? Because people taking the mop buckets full of a gallon of bleach or Comet or something and dumping it down the grease trap. kill your bugs. Hot water. You're required by law, restaurants are, to use what? A certain amount of chlorine in their wash water. Where does that go? Down the drain line, into the grease traps. Kill your bugs. Repopulate. Yes?
You said 1/8 of a pound per what per day?
Oh, I didn't finish, huh? 1/8 of a pound per 1,000-gallon grease trap per day. Sorry about that.
If it's smaller than 1,000 gallons, do an 1/8 of a pound.
Yeah, up to an 8. I mean, up to 1,000. Standard grease trap is 1,000 gallons. If you got a big one, obviously we increase that. For every 1,000 gallons, you will go to 1/4 of a pound, to 1/2 a pound. Now, these are the dries. I'll tell you about the system that a lot of people use here after I talk about the liquids. What do these do? They don't go in and clean out a grease trap full of grease. No, no. The return on investment, Frank's going to talk about here in a little while, is it prevents the frequency of pumping while eliminating odors, reducing odors. What is a nightmare for a restaurant to have? It's customers coming in and smelling that grease trap.
Back up.
Been there.
But then they put the
Been there,
drain on all
didn't
that
eat there.
stuff. Then they
Been there, left there.
Yeah.
Do you know of any products that actually do, and claim that they do, and do eliminate pumping? It will totally control. the
Totally
process?
eliminate pumping?
Yeah.
If they plug off the grease trap and don't send anything through it, I mean, no, you're going to get solids that bacteria or nothing can handle.
So, yeah.
Totally eliminate? Yeah, enzymes and surfactants. Eliminate it out of the grease trap, but not eliminate it down the line to the TOTW, or the ditch or wherever it goes.
And the one thing that's nice is when they do get a clog up, the only way to clear it is chemically first,
Correct.
and then they've got to restart.
Yeah, this is not an opener. Bacteria are not an opener. They are a maintenance, a preventive maintenance. And I don't want to, I'm not going to go into ROI. I won't let Frank toot that horn. But best thing to do, have that grease trap pumped out first, cleaned out, right out them lines, start the program. Say they're pumping it out 2 or 3 times a month. I've got clients that they ain't pumped in 2 years. I've got some typically, if they pump 12 times a year, I could get them down to 3 times a year. You had a question, Jose?
No, it's just we also distribute oil water separators, which we could use these bacteria to go along with the package.
Most definitely.
Oil water
A
separators.
beautiful
are gaining-
synergy with that.
We're gaining a lot of popularity in Latin America.
Correct. But the key is, you know, they want to use the bugs, they don't want to pump as much. Why do you have to clean it out first? Because the bacteria create a biofilm on the inside of the pipes. Inside the pipes, inside the trap, on the baffles, on the biofarm, which we'll drag out here in a little while.
Raymond,
Take care of the oncoming grease. Yes?
when you set this up for a maintenance dosage of a 1/8 of a pound per day per thousand,
Yes.
when you set it up on a pump or something like that, you do tend to get some kinds of odors or something like that if you have it sitting there for a few days.
The dry, yes. If you do it with the dry, why is that? Because of the bran.
Any way to overcome
And it's
it?
not aerated, the bacteria are starting to degrade the bran. That's what we get our liquids for. That's what we use the liquids for, in the spore form. They will not activate until they hit that grease trap.
How much more cost efficient is this than just having a pump? I mean, besides the odor control, how much money are you talking about saving somebody?
Frank bought it.
Ah, that's right.
1/8 of a pound.
1/8 of a pound?
A day.
Let's put it this way.
1/8 of a pound.
Typically, it depends on where you are in the United States. A grease trap pump could cost you $100 a pump.
Yeah.
Or it could cost you $800 a pump. You know, there are some places where it's $800 a pump because they can't get rid of it.
That's right. That's right.
Hazardous waste.
If they're pumping it out once a week, typically, you know, we say, you know, it's a 1/4 of the cost of pumping. Because what do? You reduce the pumping 4 times at least. And then if you use the system right, and you got it going good, They may not pump in 6 months, a year. All right, liquid products. Note the L in the middle, EBR L30. This is not D30, but in a liquid. It does the same thing. These are our liquid spore bacteria, 4 strains. We sell them in concentrate. 4 times to 6 times concentrate. Why do we sell them in concentrate? Because nobody wanted to buy them and ready to use anymore because they pay them for shipping of water. No, we can't offer it in ready to use. EBR L30, if you get it with color and fragrance, it is a white color with like an aerolescence perfume type deal. Smells pretty good. Without color and fragrance, it really has not a whole lot of odor, but it looks like muddy water, just kind of turbid, chock full of bacteria. It has surfactant in it also, yes.
Well, Raymond, I was thinking, is there such a chart that shows what are the specific dosing amounts per application on a charted form, on a tabulated form?
Not on a chart, but each technical data sheet on the products on the back for institutional has a dosage recommendation, not really a chart.
Most of the products have dosage on the back, with the exception of those where the sensitivity is such
Yeah.
that it could be very broad, and those are going to be case by case. Just no way of wanting to tell you a dose and then have it be the wrong one. But you'll,
Is this the type of product that you sell to consumer?
This one, no. No, this is for grease traps and septic. The next ones I'm getting into are certainly ones that we would do that for. This is one with surfactant. Why do you need surfactant again? What's it used for? Emulsify. More surface area. Keep it moving, keep it clean. Okay? 6 times concentrated is as concentrated as we can get it. Why? Because when you dilute it down, you still want to have a good bit of surfactant. So if it's a 6 times concentrate, you got a good bit of surfactant in there. If you increase that even more, then the surfactant becomes so concentrated it kills the bugs. Yes?
In that one project that I was talking to you about where we were looking at the 10X,
Yes.
if we went with that, with the best thing to do, you probably have some type of surfactant added on the side
Certainly.
if you wanted to go where they're basically double dosing. But I don't know, that's,
Or you can pre-mix it whenever you,
have you ever run into that before?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have distributors that do that now. EBR L30 is a good product, it's very successful. Well, let me talk to you about that system. Pretty much because you ensure that you don't have to go in there every day or every week to an account and service it and dose the product yourself. You have to rely on the human factor. How do you get out of that? A metered pump that will dose it in automatically. Reduces the risk of failure. Go on a liquid program for the grease trap and drain lines, dose it, and it works fine. What's even better? Yes, odor control and preventive frequency of pumping. What's even better is dosing the product and then having them spike it once a week with the dry, directly to the trap. Just spike it. Or use this and use that bioform with the bioform insert inside. Retain your population on all that surface area and degrade the grease. Okay, L40 also, you were asking about consumer products. This is a reformulation product. A lot of people say, hey, I make my own surfactant. Mine's the best. I just want the bugs. This is bugs in water. And because they're in spore form, they can take it to their drums of surfactant. Say they got, 55-gallon drum filled up with about 40 gallons of surfactant and water and whatever their secret brew is. Put my bugs in, just as long as there's not nutrients and food in there. Put my bugs in there, and you got their, for a formulated product. A lot of people do that. What's the maximum amount of surfactant that you can package these bugs with? Don't go over 15%. I like to keep it 10 or under. But 15% or more, it starts to get a bit inhibitory.
Non-ionic, anionic?
A non-ionic surfactant.
Any preference to phenols or linear alcohols or any other things?
Ethoxylated. What we use a 9 mole, and then there's a 15 mole.
Hot
And
water application?
do what?
Why the 15 mole for hot water application?
Well, kind of getting out of my
That's about
realm there.
Over 90 degrees
There's a
centigrade.
heavier density type deal. It's more emulsive. Depends on whether you want a hard surface cleaner or whether you just want a grease emulsifier. Getting into molded, I'm not too hip on it.
15 mole last time, but I'm saying it looks
Is
like.
it thinner or thicker?
The
15 mole stick.
We generally have to cut 15 mole with 9 mole to be able to run it through our pumps.
Okay. Makes sense. All right. Sell 40. We do sell this in a 10X. Because there's no surfactant. We would get that. Actually, yeah, 4 times and 10 times. We stopped doing the 4 times and 6 times because nobody bought it. Everybody likes the 10 time concentrate. We're not shipping water. You can reformulate it. Save a lot of money and make a lot of money. All right. RBC M14. Shipboard holding tanks. It's a dry product, similar to the EBR D30F, but it's 3 billion per gram. It's got a time-release oxygen source, some surfactant, and nutrients. Can you use this in bilges? Kind of, sort of. If you got a lot of gasoline and battery acid and stuff down in there, I wouldn't advise using it. Using 109. But what does this do? Time-release oxygen source, cuts the odor. It's not anaerobic. CHT lines. Transfer lines.
So what's the CHG line?
Cleaning, holding, and transfer. Rbc Septic. This is EBR D30 renamed. Why is it renamed? Because Rbc Septic is packaged in quarter-pound polyvinyl acetate bags. This is where we sell it in the 25-pound pails, 120 of them in a pail. So it's really 22.5 pounds. This is for people that sell to the septic industry. One of these little 4-ounce PVAs will, for a maintenance dosage, for a 1,000-gallon septic tank, and it's on the back of the data sheet. 1, throw it into the toilet, let it sit there for 30 seconds or so, and then flush. 1 treatment per month for a 1,000-gallon tank. This is dosage rate. What do you do during a startup? Triple that dosage. In other words, in a month, what I typically say, throw one of these bags in once a week for a month. What does this do? Opens up leach fields eventually, or keeps them from becoming plugged. Degrades paper. Odor control. keeps lines open. 1 pound. All of our dry products are packaged in ½ pound and 1 pound. We call them backpacks. The backpacks are 50 cents per pound upcharge. The only product that we package in the quarter pound is the Rbc Septic. I do have the capability of packaging the products in that PVA, but with minimum quantities. In other words, justify the work.
What would be the largest bulk package you would ship something in for repackagers?
Something about the size of the Exxon Valdez tanker.
Oh, so in other words, I mean,
No. The biggest one I've ever loaded up was
like in the dry compound, I would say.
dry. One of those big, what do you call it, a roll-off? 40 by 20?
Oh, okay. And they put it in there with nothing like insulation?
100-pound drums.
Oh, okay, in 100-pound drums. Okay.
Yeah.
So repackagers basically would take it in 100-pound drums to
Certainly.
repackage. Okay.
Standard package is 25-pound pails, 50-pound and 100-pound drums. Liquid, 5-gallon pail, 55-gallon drum, 275 tow bin, 60,000-gallon tanker truck. Oh, and 1-gallon containers also, but it's not standard packaging. We have that available. We need minimum quantities. Yes.
Do you have this in liquid?
The septic? Yes.
Are the dosage rates the same?
Dosage rates for the septic is going to be 10 ounces per month.
In the 1,000-gallon, that's a typical?
1,000-gallon standard dosage, standard size.
And when he was talking about the cleaners, that brings up a point. Would you say that perhaps you ought to recommend to a household user, if they are using bleach-based cleaners to clean the toilet, to turn around and dose it after they clean it? Or does that make sense?
Yes. And same thing we do in the restaurants. Whenever they want to implement the bioaugmentation program or a maintenance dosage, do it after you've cleaned up. And then run water, flush water to it. Dilute that bleach. Maybe they dump hot grease down that grease trap.
Because both those things are almost all chlorine based.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but, and I think Dennis can attribute to this, is the chlorine based. The residuals are gone after you dilute it for so long. That's why you flush it with the water and then come in behind it.
Yeah.
But when you stack it on top, you add the bugs and then the chlorine on top. You just, shoot yourself in the foot. Good question. Rule of thumb, free chlorine, 2 ppm kills all microbes in vegetative state. Some spores can handle 20, 25. I'm sure there's some that can handle more than that.
I think the standard for disinfection is like 1 ppm for 30 minutes for food plants. So it depends on the time as well, right?
Well, there's a time factor, yeah.
But when you go down a drain, I mean, it's almost instantaneous.
Correct. And I was going to get to that for Phil in a minute because it typically determines how much you would chlorinate your return activated sludge line going to the treatment system too. 2 ppm kills. 1 slugs. Make them real sludge.
Going back to the EVR, you said you can mix it 10 times. What kind of mixing procedures? Or is it just water? Any preservative?
The L40. Whenever you dilute it down, any preservative, we have a stabilizing preservative in there. When you mix this, I would also, don't worry about tap water. That's actually better. Tap water has chlorine in it or some fluoride in it. It serves as an inhibitor and allows increased shelf life. You inhibit the spores from wanting to come out and become vegetative. So, you can add just about anything that is non-toxic to the spores to the L40, but it cannot be a food source. If it is a food source, they will acclimate and they'll come out. And just to give you an example of what will happen, say for instance you got a 55-gallon drum and you stuck in some nutrients in there and you stuck it in your warehouse and it gets nice and warm. You ever seen a can that's got botulism in it? Those things will explode. When they explode, they got this foul stench, really pungent odor. And I've had gallon jugs and containers where they've taken their own brew, surfactant and nutrients and put in a couple of the dry bugs in it, left them on the shelf for a couple of weeks, exploded the bottles. So as long as there's not a food source mixed with this, you still get shelf life and you can know it. Surfactant can be a food source. If you put it in light concentrations, it could be a food source. That's why you don't go too high, but you don't go too low. The range would be, don't go over 15%, but you start going below 1%, and that's a trace. But also you got to imagine that there's no oxygen in there too, or there's very little oxygen. So food is what drives them to come out, but the pH needs to be right, dilution, air, temperature.
Brandon, in large application that products like for parks and recs,
Yes.
do the oxygenators or oxidizers help in odor reduction?
Oxygenators?
Well, the oxidizers, do they help in odor reduction?
Certainly. What you're doing is you're changing the environmental parameters to, you're changing it from an anaerobic to an aerobic.
So because you can't assure good mixing, how do you know that the product works beneficially?
If you can't assure good mixing,
Right. The only mixing you've got is
turbulent.
Raymond?
Yes.
Some of our products have slow release oxygen sources, but what about, we talked yesterday about adding oxygen in the form of, say, peroxides or, say, nitrates or other things that are, which would provide oxygen sources. What are the limits of adding those kind of oxygen sources typically?
It depends on what the compound is. For instance, like
As far as our
calcium
bugs,
peroxide.
yeah, like sodium nitrate would be a common one.
Typically, what I do,
Hydrogen
same thing for nutrients. I try and keep it the same as a line. If you were going to add nutrients or a time release oxygen source or something, for every 25 pounds of bugs, it requires 1 pound of fertilizer or 1 pound of time release oxygen. 25 to 1 ratio. Think about it that way, because if you take 25, remember that CMP ratio, 100 to 5 to 1? Take 25, multiply it by 4, you got 100. Okay? And then take that 1 pound, multiply it by 4, and you got 4. So in that 4, it's usually DAP. It's like 50% ammonia and 12% phosphate, something like that. Depends on what the chemical makeup is. But rule of thumb, for every 25 pounds of dry, 1 pound of nutrient or 1 pound of oxygen. Just to give you a rough estimate. Hydrogen peroxide, ppm, over 250 will start to inhibit microbial activity. 250 ppm. That has no correlation with DO though. You may have a DO of 1 with 200 ppm of hydrogen peroxide.
You see that a lot? That's a high concentration.
No, I don't see it.
Okay.
I don't see it. And a lot of people will use that for like hydrogen sulfide control,
That's right.
sewer lines, and they'll dose the hell out of it. Or some people that can't aerate because of remote areas with no electricity or something, say, hey, I'm going to start this thing up, so I'm going to add a couple of drums of H2O to it. How much can I use? What is my limit? Don't go over 250 ppm, you kill your bugs. What you'll inhibit. I would say 300 or more, you start to kill them off.
And that's being used in a lot of bleach plants too, instead of bleach.
Yeah. So, Randy, that's something like what you're talking about, like the hydrogen peroxide, calcium peroxide. Like you were saying earlier, that's fine. But with the chlorine, or maybe the bromide, whatever they're using, that'll kill the hell out of bugs. You know, that does have an effect. That has an effect. So I think what they're doing is, you know, they're helping the bugs that may, first of all, is, hey, we have the hydrogen peroxide, which is friendly. Let's not talk about this chlorine. You know, we have this. We kind of have this. You know, promote one thing, have the other. Okay. All right. Reformulation of the liquid 40. Any questions on that one? Get shelf life as long as you don't add food to it. And get shelf life just as long as you don't add it to a secret brew that'll kill it. Okay, now let's talk about consumer products. By the way, these are products that were formulated, most of them in the ready-to-use form, that we sell to distributors, or want to sell to distributors, that they can private label, repackage, and put on the store shelves. Let's talk about it. Consumer products include carpet cleaning, hard surface cleaning, septic systems, drain lines, algae, spot remover and odor control. Similar products. Drain opener, boat bilges, compost. Big G.
I was just saying, that's a big G
Kind of stressing the composting. Okay. All right. EBR L50, and the CF stands for color and fragrance. This is the drain maintenance. Yes. Liquefies and dissolves drain clogs with bacteria capable of breaking down typical household waste. Bacteria leave a biofilm that helps prevent buildup. It's a preventive maintenance. This is better than the liquid plumber drain maintenance thing. We've got laboratory testing, comparative analysis. Actually, we did for you guys of this versus. Matter of fact, about 4 of them. I can't remember all the names. We did some for like Rid-X, for septic and stuff. But ours really showed up, and we did comparative analysis against it. This is not an opener. It is a drain maintenance. That biofilm, just like grease traps. But this is sold in ready-to-use form. The benefit here is, this is where I really wish Terry Owens was here. He's the consumer guru for distributors. I'm just the tech guy. But where you really can make your money is we sell it to you in the drums, and then you have your own contracts, whatever, for bottling, labeling, and stuff. So it becomes very cost effective. Okay.
When y'all compared it to the liquid plumber, did you compare it to the older alkaline version or to the new bacterial version?
The new bacteria. Oh yeah.
It was apples to apples.
What can you attribute the benefits of the product over the liquid plumber product?
Benefits?
Yeah, why is it better?
Number one, higher bacterial count. But the importance of it is when they do something like that, remember there's 4 enzymes, basic ones? The plumber one has 2. The cellulase and the lipase. We do enzymatic activity test. Our products, those 4 strains of microbes, which we have, they have 2. No, they have 3. we produce all four, positive for all four enzymatic activity, which means they break down that way so they can then degrade.
They have cellulase, lysase, and.
Amylase, protease.
I mean, the local comment, which one didn't it have?
I can't be 100% certain. I know they had the lipase, which is very important for grease, and then I think it was either cellulase or protease. This is an example of our biofarm. Basically, I explain it to people who are affiliated with fishing. There's a cricket box with a bunch of netted ping pong balls.
Good explanation.
What it is basically a packed bed reactor, trickle filter. It's got a lot of surface area. Yeah, just pass it around. And what he has there is the biofarm insert. It's a paraffinic plug, a VBR D30, that is time release, stuck down in the inside of the bio reactor there, the biofarm. And over 20 to 30 days, it sloughs off into the biofarm.
Now, would this be good for lift stations?
Certainly.
Right.
This was invented for grease traps. I do have distributors that use that in lift stations. Extremely successful.
What is it below, like, there's a lot of fine granite, you shake it?
That creates weight because we want this underneath the grease cap submerged in the water. That's sand or something, gravel or something, pea gravel.
How does the lift station play? Is that what you're thinking, the big horse garbage out of the 3?
Okay, a lift station. Define a lift station is, we're in New Orleans. Biggest lift stations in the world are here. Pumping station.
Okay.
Basically, there's a gravity. In other words, municipalities are generally, around here, Louisiana's flat. We have a few. It's basically where you have so much flow and then it's got to go uphill, okay, to get somewhere, or you got so much volume. A lift station is a retention basin that basically, when it fills up, it has an automatic meter pump. Pump kicks on and it lifts the water up, pushes it. And you'll hear them sometimes if you've got one in a neighborhood or something, you'll hear it kick on. And you hear the rushing of the water go through. It's pumping the water up to a higher level. Gravity, instead of gravity. A lot of places that have drain lines that run downhill, they don't need lift stations. They may have wet wells, which are basically tiny little EQ basins, or retention, by where they hold the water. When they fill up, they trickle on down into a weir.
But it's not associated with sewage treatment, it's just the water level management?
No, it is sewage treatment. It's
But
sewer main.
it's water level, it's basically in a flat area. The sewers go down and they go low, 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 and then you gotta start again somewhere in the process, whether it be treatment or something, get the.
You want to have a
These are-
constant movement of water.
These are accumulation areas too.
They fill up with grease constantly.
Yeah, it's a good point. They go to the sewer plant.
You just
And they
raise
pump in
flow
the water
levels, it increase your
constantly.
detention.
Because it's a retention, you get high grease, and because you hold it there a while, and if it doesn't pump, you get no turbulence, which means aeration, and you get odors. And the neighborhoods call the mayor and say, hey, it stinks out here, do something, blah, blah,
This is
blah.
like pre-treatment then for the, would all be.
Certainly. This is application where we take the backpacks or the muni back, also buy a farm, stick it in there, because they have to go in there all the time and jet that out. And they get plugged, and I'm looking for the word here. What happens whenever the grease plugs up the pump? What do they call that?
Cavitation.
Cavitation. Yeah, and that's expensive. Have to go and replace those pumps. EBR L60. Hard surface cleaner. Bacterial count 50 billion per gallon. A lower count. But what is the purpose here? This contains high amount of surfactant. Surfactant lifts the oil and grease, the stain, gets it solubilized wherever you wash this down to, in the grass, in the sewer, the bugs have been there to take care of the surfactants and the contaminants. And there are many, many, many people out there that'll have their magic poo-poo snake, and they'll go out there and clean up that big old spot on your carport or driveway or parking lot and say, yeah, look at them bugs work. Bugs do not, will not, cannot, never not. Yes?
What's a good product for cleaning oil off your driveway?
This.
That's what you're saying? I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
it.
paying attention.
That's it right there. But it's not the bugs. It's not really the bugs that are doing that. Surfactant is getting it up. It's a cleaner. Now, how could you get bugs to do that? Well, take the oil spot, build you a little levee around it, fill it up with water, add your bugs,
Some driveways.
go over there with a straw and blow air through it every once in a while, and in a week, it'll be gone. But then, that's right, adjust pH temperature. And I'm sure it's been tried.
Lower the pH here.
I've had people back a long time when I first started this company, they would take the dry brand material, throw it down there, just leave it there and come back, like an absorbent. And it left a bigger stain than they had in the first place. Because the bugs, you know, they sprayed it with water, hey, they're working and everything. But the bugs, that glycocalyx and slime layer, when it dries up in the sun, it turns black. They have a bigger stain. You know, so. DVRL60, hard surface cleaner. The surfactants emulsify the oil and grease, get it up, and then the bacteria then take care of it.
Yeah. Is the restaurant floors, the kitchen floors and stuff, not recommended or
Yeah.
cost effective compared to what they're using now?
Actually, I have people using the L30 to do floors with too. Mop bucket water.
You mentioned here that it can be used for countertops. So this, if you made a countertop.
Non-food handling countertops. Non-food handling countertops.
What about food handling countertops?
No bacteria. No. USDA will nail your tail.
He doesn't have the USDA to worry about.
That's true.
Like you said,
Still wouldn't advise you.
actually, even FDA will not allow products with bacterial content to be used in food preparation.
Correct.
Regardless whether it's a
Nobody.
or
EPA, OSHA, God, everybody. No.
then where do you apply those?
The hard surface cleaner. Oil on cement. Machinery, tool, people clean, all right, parts washers.
Those are hydrocarbon normally.
Correct. This is hydrocarbon or any type of, it could be fog.
Animal fats,
Oh, that's easy to degrade.
vegetable fats.
Now, petroleum hydrocarbon in a liquid. It is limited on its petroleum. It will take it a long time to degrade it. Okay? How we came about with this? Gas station parking lots. They were using acids to clean that off. It goes down the sewer and gives the POTWs hell. A lot of people that approve products to be used said, okay, send us a sample of what you're implementing or you want to use, and we'll see if it works. What they did was, they took it, okay, the surfactant emulsifies the oil and grease, yeah, but then what happens? The POTW gets it, okay? Well, we have bacteria in here that'll eat it. Okay, we want to make sure. Shake flask study, did the test, ate the surfactant and the oil and grease. Okay, yeah, you can use that. Knowing that the bugs are not eating it right there, they're eating it in the drain line all the way to the municipality. And if they reach a municipality, they only can help, then hinder.
But you're hurting your business that way. You missed your big bug sales when that POTW just.
I know.
It's good.
That's why we don't sell a whole lot of this.
Trade secret.
How would you apply this? Would you spray it on and let it sit and then wash it off down the drain?
No, what you do, applying, wet the surface, spray this on, pour it on, scrub. then spray off.
And how, what time frame?
And dilute this.
What time frame?
Yeah, 10 minutes, 15, let it sit.
Yeah, minutes, not an hour or so.
And then it's gonna go down the drain, it's like emulsified oil, water, or
Yes.
milky looking.
The bacteria will be activated by the end and they start giving it up. Dilute it. This is in ready to use form. Have somebody who has bought this before and cut it in half. It works. Also, the next one I'm gonna go over is ready to use, and I know somebody who's cutting it in half and it works fine too.
On that,
Though I try not to advocate that.
the bio
Southwest by
there's deodorized powder pore surfaces.